Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at some really fascinating research out of Sweden. And, it's going to kind of blow your mind a little bit. It really has to do with the connection between what's going on in your mouth and what's going on in your gut and how that might be impacting your heart health.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic right now. Lots of research going on in this area. And this particular study, the Swedish Cardiopulmonary Bioimage Study, SCAPS for short, is pretty impressive. They looked at a huge group of people, almost 9,000, all between the ages of 50 and 65. And none of them had any history of heart disease. What they were really interested in was finding connections between the bacteria that live in our gut and those early warning signs of heart trouble. So they combined gut bacteria analysis with some really advanced cardiac imaging techniques.
Wow, 9,000 people. That's a massive study. So what did they learn from all of that data?
Well, one of the big findings was a strong association between certain oral bacteria, specifically some from the Streptococcus family, and the development of these things called atherosclerotic plaques in the small arteries of the heart.
Okay, wait a minute. Atherosclerotic plaques. Those are the fatty deposits, right? The ones that can build up in your arteries. But I always thought those were a problem in the larger arteries.
Right, so you're thinking about the larger plaques that can restrict blood flow in those bigger arteries, which can increase the risk of things like heart attacks and strokes. But what's so interesting about this study is that they found these plaques developing in the smaller arteries of the heart, which suggests that the process of atherosclerosis might actually be starting much earlier than we thought.
So this could change how we think about early detection and prevention. But Streptococcus bacteria, isn't that what causes pneumonia and strep throat?
Exactly. Most people associate Streptococcus with those kinds of infections. So to find them linked to heart health was definitely a surprise.
So how do these mouth bacteria even end up in the gut in the first place? It's not like there's a direct route, right?
Not a direct route, no. But researchers did find a correlation between the levels of certain Streptococcus species in both saliva and fecal samples. So it seems like these bacteria getting swallowed, surviving that trip through the digestive system, and then setting up shop in the gut.
Wow, so maybe good oral hygiene is even more important than we realized.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that connection between oral health and overall health. Brushing, flossing, those regular dental checkups could be playing a role in protecting your heart.
Okay, noted. Gotta keep up with those dentist appointments. But back to the bacteria for a second. Were there any particular Streptococcus species that really stood out in the study?
Two in particular showed the strongest connection to those early plaques, Streptococcus anginosus and S. oralis subsp balis.
Okay, so let me get this straight. These two Streptococcus species, they're found in the mouth. Somehow they make their way to the gut, and then they seem to be linked to plaque buildup in the heart's small arteries. But how does that actually happen?
That's the million-dollar question. While the researchers have observed this link, they're still working to uncover the exact mechanisms involved. One possibility is that these bacteria might be releasing certain molecules, and those molecules trigger an inflammatory response in the body.
Ah, inflammation. That seems to be connected to so many health issues these days.
It really does.
So what role might it be playing in this case?
Well, we know that chronic inflammation is a key factor in the development of heart disease. It can damage blood vessels and contribute to that plaque formation. And what's really intriguing is that this study also found an association between these Streptococcus bacteria and higher levels of inflammatory markers in the blood.
So it's like these bacteria are adding fuel to the fire. We've got the oral bacteria potentially triggering inflammation, which then contributes to plaque buildup in the heart. It's like a chain reaction.
It seems that way. And this brings us to the really exciting world of DNA sequencing technology.
Okay, I'm all ears. How does DNA sequencing fit into all of this?
Well, it's because of advances in DNA sequencing technology that researchers are now able to really delve into the intricate world of the gut microbiome and identify those specific bacterial species that might be contributing to health conditions like heart disease. It's like trying to understand a vast rainforest ecosystem. DNA sequencing is like having this powerful tool that allows you to zoom in and identify every single plant and animal species present, even the tiny ones you wouldn't normally see.
Because DNA sequencing is giving us a much clearer picture of what's living in our gut and what could potentially be causing trouble.
Exactly. It's like having a microscopic lens that's allowing us to see those invisible forces at play in our bodies. It's a real game changer for medical research.
Wow. I'm already feeling like I've learned so much. And we've only just scratched the surface. I think we need to take a pause here. When we come back, let's dive into what all of this means for us and explore some of the potential implications of these findings.
Yeah, it really does make you think. This research is kind of pushing us to rethink how we approach heart health.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm still kind of stuck on this whole idea of bacteria from our mouths actually impacting our hearts. How are those two things even connected?
Yeah, it seems pretty wild, doesn't it? But we're constantly swallowing those tiny bits of saliva, and that carries those oral bacteria into our digestive system. Most of them probably get destroyed by that stomach acid,
Yeah.
but some of them, they're tough enough to survive the journey and end up in the gut.
So like a little tiny microbial migration happening inside us all the time. And you're saying that some of these oral bacteria, once they get to the gut, they might actually be contributing to heart disease.
That's what this research is suggesting. And what's really interesting is that the study found this connection between these oral bacteria and inflammation. And of course, inflammation is a key player when it comes to heart disease.
Yeah, we talked about inflammation earlier, but I think it's worth kind of diving a little deeper. How does inflammation actually contribute to heart problems?
Okay, so imagine the inner lining of your arteries, like a smooth, delicate surface. Now, when inflammation happens, like that surface gets all irritated and rough,
Yeah.
and that makes it easier for cholesterol and other substances to stick, which leads to those atherosclerotic plaques forming.
So basically, inflammation sets the stage for that plaque buildup, and then these oral bacteria come along and make that inflammation worse. It's a pretty fascinating connection.
It is. It really challenges the way we used to think about heart disease.
Mm.
Like it's all about lifestyle choices, diet, exercise. But now, this research is opening up this whole new area of exploration. It's suggesting that the makeup of our gut bacteria, which might be influenced by our oral microbiome, could be another critical piece of the puzzle.
It's like we're realizing that heart health isn't just about what we eat. It's about those trillions of tiny organisms living inside us and how they're interacting with our bodies.
Right. It's this whole ecosystem we're only beginning to understand.
Exactly. And, this has huge implications for how we think about preventing and treating disease.
Wait, this.
Imagine a future where doctors could analyze your gut microbiome and identify, specific imbalances that might be putting you at risk for heart disease.
It's becoming more and more possible, thanks to all the research that's happening in this area. Scientists are already working on developing more targeted interventions, like personalized probiotics or dietary recommendations, things that could help restore that healthy balance in the gut microbiome.
So we could be fighting heart disease with good bacteria.
Potentially.
That's pretty amazing. But realistically, how far away are we from that kind of personalized medicine?
It's hard to say for sure. The field's moving really fast. New discoveries are happening all the time. This particular study focused on a specific group of people, those between 50 and 65, with no history of heart disease. So future research will need to look at whether these findings hold true for other age groups and for those who already have heart conditions.
It seems like there's still so much more to learn. What's next for the researchers who did this study?
Well, they're really trying to dig deeper into how these oral bacteria are getting to the gut and what specific things are happening to cause that impact on heart health. They're also looking at potential genetic factors that might make some people more susceptible to these effects.
So they're putting together the whole picture.
Yeah.
From mouth to the gut to the heart.
Exactly.
It's pretty complex.
It is. And, the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. But every new discovery gets us closer to really understanding heart disease and developing more effective ways to prevent and treat it.
Which hopefully means a healthier future for all of us. Okay, well, I think we need to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll reflect on everything we've learned and what it means for our listeners. All right, we're back for the last part of our deep dive today. And we've covered a lot of ground here, from those oral bacteria making their way to the gut to that whole inflammation thing. What really stands out to you as the most important takeaway?
I think it's got to be this new way of thinking about heart health. We're moving past that old idea of just focusing on lifestyle choices, like diet and exercise. This research is showing us just how powerful that gut microbiome is, that whole community of microorganisms living inside us. And it's opening up some pretty incredible possibilities for personalized medicine.
It's like discovering a whole new world right there in our own bodies. But, before we get too carried away, we got to remember that the research is still in the early stages.
You're absolutely right. This study is a big step forward, but we need more research to really understand all the details and figure out how to use this knowledge to actually help people.
For sure.
But the progress is exciting. We're starting to see that we might be able to develop therapies that target specific imbalances in the gut microbiome and potentially reduce the risk of heart disease.
It's amazing to think we could actually fight heart disease with good bacteria.
It's kind of like using the power of our own inner ecosystem to stay healthy. And this whole deep dive, the connection between oral bacteria gut health and heart health. It really shows us how different parts of our body are all connected. It's not just one thing, it's everything working together.
Well said. Makes you wonder what other connections we might find in the future, right?
Exactly. That's the best part of science. It's a never-ending journey. Who knows what we'll discover next about the human microbiome? Maybe new ways to treat chronic diseases, or boost our immune systems, or even improve our mental health.
It's pretty humbling to think about how much we still don't know. I bet we'll be having a lot more deep dives like this one as we make new discoveries. Thanks for joining us on this one, everyone, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future explorations.